Hi, I'm Jessica Houchens. I'm a member here at Whiteland Church, and I decided to give my testimony to be recorded because it was something that really helped me out when I was seeking for a long time, and it was really cool to me to hear different people's testimonies and the different ways that people got saved, and it was really cool when I actually could relate to their story before I got saved. And just being able to relate and hear other people's experiences really helped me out. So I hope through doing some of these that maybe they'll help somebody else out. I grew up in a house with a mom and a dad like everybody else. But my parents, it wasn't really a functioning relationship. And they ended up getting divorced when I was 13 years old, which I would debate would be like probably the hardest time in a girl's life when she's just hitting teenage years and all the different things that girls go through and emotions and just changes in their life. I feel like that would probably be the most important time in a girl's life that she would need a dad. And during that time I didn't have one because my parents, like I said, split up. And it was probably when I turned 15 years old that I started turning to worldly things and seeking to fill the void that was in my life because of not having a dad and my insecurities. So I started being involved in things like partying and drinking and getting high and stealing, seeking friendships with people that I had no business hanging out with, looking for boyfriends that I had no business being around at all, just all kinds of different things that I was seeking to find something to fill this place in my heart that I knew was empty, that needed something. I didn't realize at the time I needed God. I was trying to fill it with worldly things that always ended up only being temporary, and not only temporary, but they were more distractions. They even pulled me further away from God. It didn't even allow me to really focus on what am I feeling this for? Why do I feel so empty? Because the drinking and the partying kind of, I guess, took place of me realizing what was going on. So I met Corey, who's now my husband, when I was 16 years old. I was almost 17 at the time. And I could tell immediately right off the bat that he was really, really different than most 20-year-old men that I knew. He just wasn't interested in the things that the other guys that were his age were interested in, and or the things that I was interested in. He really didn't have anything, any interest in participating in that stuff. And as far as, going to parties and stuff, he just really wouldn't ever come with me, and I was often going by myself. So it was probably, we met before my junior year, the summer before my junior year in high school. It was probably the middle of my junior year that he started trying to get me to come to church with him. And I came off and on, maybe starting out once a month. And I would sit in the pew and listen to the message. Well, not really listen, I just heard the message and it kind of went in one ear and out the other. I acted like I was paying attention, but really nothing was getting through to me. And I just found it to be an old-fashioned church, and it was small and not anything that really interested me. So I continued to come, and towards the end of my junior year, I think, is when it started hitting me that these preachers were preaching right at me, and they were talking to me. Their message seemed like it was directed right toward me, and that's when I first started becoming really convicted, I guess, of my sins, and I started realizing that I didn't have what these people had, and I started feeling really separated from the people that were members at the church at the time. And I started realizing I don't want to feel like this during service. I want to feel how they're feeling. And I think it finally started clicking with me that this is what I've been missing. This is what this void has been that I haven't been able to fill with all of these other things. So I decided that in order to, seek my own salvation, I would give up partying and give up, the drinking and the getting high and hanging out with certain people. I would give these things up in an attempt to show God that I was ready to, that I wanted to be saved, and I thought that's maybe what would do it. So I gave up doing a lot of that stuff, or at least I tried to. It was really, really hard for me. I failed quite often, and Corey put up with a lot from me during that time, and basically that's not what saved me, but I can say that it really helped me giving those things up. It just kind of made me realize what was more important to me, and I think I started getting more serious after I gave up those things and showed God that I was ready to start putting Him before some of these things. But it was still, I think, mostly for Corey, and I was still he was the number one priority in my life at the time, and I would just do anything. But it was one night that I was, I believe, 18, and I had went to a friend's house, and I promised Corey that I was just going to hang out, and I wasn't going to participate in anything, and I still wasn't saved at the time. And so I show up, and before I knew it, I was the very opposite of sober. And I went home that night. I had to be driven home by a friend, and he pulled in the driveway, Corey did, to tell me goodnight, and I knew that I'd failed him. And I remember him looking at me saying, "Jess, are you high?" And I lied and said, "No, I'm not high." And it was at that moment I thought for sure he was going to break up with me. I thought for sure that he was done with everything that I put him through and all these partying escapade things I was going off on. And I just thought for sure that was going to be the end. And instead, Corey showed me forgiveness and love. And at the time, I thought that was the greatest amount of forgiveness and love that anyone had ever shown me. And I can just tell you today that was nothing compared to the forgiveness and love that God showed me when He finally saved me. So after that incident, after that night, I continued trying to do things to please God, but I finally started seeking Him. I started praying. I realized that I was lost. When I felt convicted and when I felt my heart was just burdened and heavy and I felt all these things, I knew I needed to pray, and I started being more willing to get down and pray. I don't know how many layers of ice and steel and stone that God had to finally break for my heart to finally soften a little. But I'm so thankful that He was so patient with me, and He did just break away those layers one at a time and soften my heart enough to finally start praying and crying out to Him. And before I knew it, I was praying at home, I was praying in the car, I was praying at work, in the break room, I was praying downtown at IUPUI in the cafeteria. I was just praying all the time, in the shower, literally just everywhere. And I still wasn't finding that peace because I was not giving everything up to Him. I was clinging on to things. I was clinging on to my past, and I was telling myself I wasn't worth it. And just all of these things that I wouldn't let go. And it wasn't until one night, I was 20 years old, it was March of 2013, so just a year and a few months ago. I was at home holding laundry, and I don't know what hit me. I don't know if there was a song that had come on the radio. Something just hit me, and I finally got to the point where I didn't care what it took. And I just told God, I give it all up to You. And I think the only thing that actually came out of my mouth for the first time, before I was always just praying, "Please save me, please help me, I don't know what's going on." But I just cried out to Him, "Help me, just help me. I don't know what it is that I have to do. I don't know what I need to say. I've heard all these different things about what I need to do, what I need to say, these certain things, these steps that it may take. Just please help me." And it was in that moment that God saved me on the couch at my house. And it was the best feeling that I've ever had. And it felt like all of a sudden, all of these things that I was so worried about, and all of these feelings I had about myself, I had about my relationship, that I had about church, all these issues were gone, like completely. I just felt as light as a feather, and I was home completely by myself, but I was laughing and jumping all around like, I don't know, I probably looked like a fool, but I was totally by myself, nobody saw anything, and I will never forget that day. And I hope if you have never had an experience like this, that you would just seek after God, that you would pray to Him and ask Him to reveal it to you one way or the other. I don't think it doesn't matter if you're an atheist, if you believe in God, if you think that you're a Christian and you think you're saved, but you've never had an experience where you know that God came into your heart, where you physically felt this burden of relief just disappear. If you've never had that feeling, you're not saved. And I know that I know that I know now, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that God saved me that night in March. And I'm so thankful that I never have to relive those days of trying to fill voids in my life that just would never be filled. And God put them in my life, put those things in my life to show me that. And I'm so thankful that that's my testimony. And I just want you to know, wherever you are and whoever you are, that I love you. This church and all of God's people love you, but most importantly, He loves you. And I hope that you got something out of this. If not, I've gotten a huge blessing from just telling it. So thank you and God bless.